Today on Locked On Red Wings, a draft profile on Zeev Buium and Igor Chernyshov with Sam McGilligan of PuckPreps.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a former broadcast producer for 97.1 The Ticket, where Scotty is the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today, Scotty, we're happy to have Sam McGilligan back on. He's helped us do profiles every offseason. And today he's going to help profile one of the bigger names in Zeev Buium, brother of Detroit Red Wings prospect Shai Buium, as well as Egor Chernyshov, who is, let's be honest, a little bit more realistic for the Red Wings purposes. Sam, how are you doing today, man?
Fantastic, man. How are you?
Doing really good. Glad that we could have you back on as the draft is approaching 10. As of recording this, just 10 days away, as it's next Friday.
Friday.
It's
wild,
so
man.
funny. It's
Busy
so funny.
time of year.
Yeah.
Scotty and I we have these meetings come May when we're like, let's map out how we're going to do this offseason leading up to free agency and draft. And we're always like, it's going to be, kind of a grind. There's not a lot of news this time. And then before you know it, we're a little over a week away, and it's like right on the doorstep. So we're really excited to have you back on to do a couple profiles, because it's not profile season without at least one Sam McGilligan profile episode. Every single year, guys.
Truly.
Look back at our index. He's there.
Yeah.
But before we can get to that, I got to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. And thanks for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Sam, without further ado, God, I said it again. It's like my new slang whenever I just want to segue right into what we're talking about. I say like every episode.
Says it a lot.
I'll have to think of some alternatives to that. But anyways, Sam, let's just dive right into Zeev Buium. He's brother of Shai Buium, which I've already established. And Shai, who was taken by the Red Wings 36th overall in 2021, he's pretty highly touted prospect in the Red Wings system as is. But Zeev is projected to be a top 10 prospect, projected pick rather, in this upcoming 2024 NHL entry-level draft. What is, when comparing the two brothers, both of which play defense too, what gives Zeev that kind of edge in their draft class?
I think the easiest way to do it is to look at the two of them when they were draft eligibles, because Shai's developed a lot after the draft. At the time of the draft, Shai didn't have the most versatile offensive toolkit. You could see the potential was there, but he was a lot of 18-year-olds who have just grown, kind of still clunky, kind of just haven't figured out the nuance to what it takes to carry the puck with complete precision and then also make decisions against fast-paced players, right? It takes time. Some guys figure it out, some guys don't. Shai, once he figured it out, it became evident that a lot more to the game he understood, and he knew how to kind of start putting the pucks in better situations. He's already a big guy as well. He can play under pressure. He can secure the puck off guys, come right off the board, look up, heads up, make a first pass play. Quite sure, because I watched Shai Buium's AHL game before this just to kind of see where he's at, and I was pleasantly surprised. His first thing was that he smashed a guy against the board, immediately got the puck and took off. Zeev Buium's been doing this stuff perfectly since last year. So everything Shai's kind of added, Zeev's had in his game since his first year with the NTDP last year. He's been a consistent force at all times with the puck on his stick. Maybe it comes from being a smaller player and also kind of just coming in his brother's, I guess, just a couple of years younger. You just add a little bit more skill training, and maybe you just don't have as much of a growth spurt and it doesn't feel as awkward. He's consistently out there, always moving his feet, always angling towards the play. He's always playing with his head up. He makes extremely fast decisions. He's got skill. He looks for the good play to make and not just the quick, fast one, but he also knows all the quick, fast plays to make when he's under pressure as well. The biggest, I guess you could say, detraction against Zeev right now is the fact that he's just not the most explosive skater. and he plays a highly mobile game, and some people see that as a concern. I'm more optimistic with players like this, where I kind of see it as, yeah, he doesn't skate super well, so he knows how to compensate for it because he's always moving. He's not like he's like moving just for the sake of it and like leaving good space behind or kind of over rotating or missing, basically just like overcomplicating things for himself and like missing chances. He's just always moving towards play. He's just always in play. That's the other thing between him and Shai. Like, he's just always in play. He's never far away from it. When you watch the championship game when he's playing for Denver, he looked spectacular at shutting down like every single play that came his way and just immediately jump starting an attack or making the first play to at least get a puck to a teammate in space. And then he's looking for the next route to take that covers both like something offensively, something defensively. Like, he won't overly risk anything out there the whole time. He's just a game manager. There's no defenseman in the draft who I think does this. I think he might be as of now, he's the only one to be this involved in like everything. And you can look at it and go, yeah, that's going to work in the NHL. Nice. Sweet. It's just like easy when you watch him, unless you're really concerned with the skating, which that comes down to just like who it is that's evaluating him. But the rest of it, that's just how he is. That's how he plays.
Well, I think usually we save questions like this the end of the profile, but I think with this one, it's fair to kind of jump the gun on a little bit. Like, it's no secret that with him specifically, we're kind of pushing a little bit the realm of possibility of like him being available when the Wings pick. I feel like for pretty much everyone else we've done, there's been a legitimate argument of, okay, there's a real chance this dude is here at 15. This is the first one where that is probably a long shot. I think there's an outside chance, or else we wouldn't do it at all. But yeah. I think that this is probably the one where it's a little bit more of a long shot. Just talk a little bit about why he is so highly touted when compared to the other defensemen in this draft. I know you just talked about it a little bit there, but also B, if there is any chance that he could be there at 15.
I don't really think there's all too much chance, but I wouldn't rule it out entirely because the draft itself is weird. Like 5 or 6 teams could all walk up to the podium and agree that Zeev Buium was the second guy they had on their board, but they had one guy they liked more. And that's all it takes for like a good player to fall. And then some teams kind of look back and go, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And then somebody else is just like, wow, this happened. I didn't expect this because I know everybody loves him. How is he sitting on my lap? Like, that's how it works sometimes. So maybe Zeev's there, but I don't think he is, because I think he's going to be like the second or third defenseman gone. And I personally think he should be the first defenseman gone. NCAA is such an easy league to project to the NHL, right? It's like the best non-professional league in the world by a fair margin. Like, the gap is ever clear when you're watching like the Memorial Cup, and then you're also watching the NCAA, like the championship game. You're like, wow, that was craziest game Zeev Buium was played, or at least one of them. He's played in some big games. Like, that was high pressure game against a very, very good team, and he looked spectacular. He played 25 minutes. They just kept putting him out there more and more and more, and he just lived up to it with every minute, man. He was good. His defensive play was probably the most important thing. And I think when you watch like the playoffs this year in the NHL, or playoffs every year, basically, like your offensive guy doesn't look as awesome as you remembered in the regular season, when he's kind of always under pressure and he's a little, he doesn't get that extra half second he's probably used to. So now he's rushing some of his decisions. He's also just kind of late to puck sometimes. Some of them elevate their games. I guess I'm speaking more on the ones who don't. Buium is not one of those guys. That's going to be someone your coach is like, go out there and defend. He's like, aye. And he's and he's going to do really well. Like, I think he's kind of the guy you can see the most playing top 4 minutes. The thing is, like, this draft doesn't have like a superstar defender or like a clear cut one, right? Like, there's no one, if he had the skating that like the top NHL defenders usually have, like if he moved like Heiskanen or something like that, okay, we're talking about like, that would be a number one D. Like, he plays the habits that make it all go like, yeah, this guy can outplay almost anybody. It just, he doesn't have that otherworldly skating, but he built his game around that fact. And it's just so easy to still look at him, see him be effective. Barn burners in the NHL will catch him because that's just how they do to everybody who doesn't move like them. So it's not like it's something crazy, but like the physical guys aren't going to like plow through him. He's 6'2" and he's strong and he's sturdy and he knows how to play with like pressure on his back when he has the puck and he comes out of a battle with it or something like that. Like he's not going to like get overwhelmed by a second effort or something like that. And that's what the NHL teams love. Like guys who fall through the draft fall because of like details like that, because they think like they recognize that a guy is talented, but they see these little concerns. Like, I don't think they're going to get past this. Sometimes they're just wrong. Sometimes they're right. But usually when those guys have those details on lock, like Buium does, they don't fall. They're just the ones that go in the top 7 or 8. And you go, yeah, I was expecting that.
Awesome. I mean, I have just one more question for you regarding Buium, and then we can switch to Chernyshov. Chernyshov. I'm trying my best to pronounce that as accurately as possible.
You're doing your best.
I'm doing my best here on Lockdown Red Wings, but I'm going to save that question regarding Zeev for segment 2 of Lockdown Red Wings, so make sure you stay tuned to that. Got to talk to you guys today about Game Time. They are the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, comedy, concerts, theater, and so much more. And save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game and event. And that lowest price guarantee means that you'll save up to 110% of the difference if you find the same seats on a different app for less. And with the Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. We're joined by Sam McGilligan of PuckPreps, and right now I just had one more question about Zeev Buium, and that has more to do with where he's going to be drafted, right? Scotty had already mentioned that he's likely going to be taken before the Red Wings have the opportunity to even fantasize about reuniting these two brothers, but there was a report today by David Pagnotta for the fourth period that the Utah Hockey Club might be willing to trade their 6th overall pick. And Sam, I just want you to put yourself in Steve Yzerman's shoes. If you love Zeev Buium and you think that the brothers could benefit from potentially playing together, is this a type of player that you would be willing to trade up for in order to bring into your organization? Is like, what caliber of top D prospect in this draft are we talking about?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
Mostly just because this is a weird draft, right? Like you've got 2 surefire rock stars at the top in Celebrini and Demidov. You've got Caden Lindstrom, who, if this herniated disc isn't a problem, like, will be a monster in the NHL. And even if like the best doesn't work out, great floor, right? Berkeley Catton, personal favorite of mine, seems like he's going to slip a little bit in the draft because he's 5'11" and not 6 feet tall. Beyond those 4 guys, I don't think there's anybody with like big star potential that's obvious. It doesn't mean that that can't happen, but it's going to require stuff that to happen like going forward that we're just now guessing. Like, does it happen? I don't know. Let's see. If you think that you got a really, really, really good player, the chemistry is fit with the brother, and you think Zeev is that type of guy, like if you think you can get the best out of him and someone else looks at him and you're in Steve Yzerman's camp is like, we can absolutely make him much faster and this and that. And if this is the case, yes, I can see the intrigue with it, especially because you guys, it would be like the final closing piece on a blue line that's starting to get pretty crowded with good prospects, right? Mm-hmm. The brother factor is always cool. I'm not just particularly sold that Shai Buium's going to be more than like a number 5 or 4 yet, like a good number 5 or 4. It's not like I'm downplaying. Like that's a good role. And he's going to be one where when you look at him there, you're like, yeah, I don't feel like replacing him. Like we're good with him there. Like that's a solid guy. You don't, that was like when the Habs took Arbor Xhekaj's brother last year, I was like, why are we using a draft pick on this? And I feel like this would be a very good version of that because you get a player like Zeev Buium, but moving up in the draft is already kind of like not something I usually believe in. It's almost never more valuable because there's always guys who are slipping. Like Detroit will weaponize this 15th pick is basically to cap the whole rant off. Like they're going to do something crazy. I'm not sure I'll even agree with it on draft night, but that what I think doesn't matter because Detroit has an internal system that they believe in, that they trust. I look at a guy like Shai Buium, and in 2022, I was like, I don't know what Detroit's doing. And now I look at him and go, all right, that's what Detroit was doing. Like, it's very clear, like the type of blue line you guys are trying to build out. It's big, it's lanky. They're all fluid skaters. They all play with the puck and make quick decisions, even if they're not like extended puck carriers. Like,
awesome.
There are guys who you can get at 15, and there are who can fit that role. And there's also a few stars. Maybe Igor Chernyshov. Just saying.
That's a good segue right there. And I mean, Scotty, unless you have anything else on Zeev.
No, let's kick it off.
All right, cool. The other prospect we're profiling this episode is Egor Chernishov. I'm trying my best, people. Stay with me. And he is a 6'2" winger out of Russia, if that wasn't obvious based on the name. He played this past year. He played 34 games in the KHL and 22 games in the MHL. Obviously, better production numbers in the MHL because it's a little bit of a lower league. But, I mean, this is a kid who's already played 30-plus games in the KHL going into his draft year. Yet a lot of projected mock drafts have him projected in the late teens to 20s. You know, how does Chernishov stack up to his the other wingers in this draft class that are supposed to go between 10 and 20? Because there's a bunch of them. Yeah,
there's a bunch of them, right? Originally, I also had Igor Chernyshov in that 18 to 20 range. This is mostly where he's been. And he has had peaks. He's never dipped below that. He's had peaks higher than that. But I always ended up watching other guys and settling on them. But as I'm going through the final viewings for this season in the last month, one of the 3 guys who really moved up the list was Igor Chernyshov. He's now above 15 on the list. He's 13, I believe. And I think he honestly could end at like 12 or 11 because he played 30-plus pro KHL games because he played like a pro KHL player. Like, it wasn't perfect, but they could have easily sent him down. They don't have tolerance for him just to be there just for the sake of it. Like, he wasn't lazy by any stretch of the imagine. Like, every stereotype that comes alongside players in the KHL, like, did not match him whatsoever. He put in the effort and 200 foot of his game. He plays with strength. So if he sees a chance to pin a guy, even if they're stronger than him, he'll still go for it. And he wins a surprising amount of these battles. And the skill he comes out of them with is insane. Like, I watched in his second last playoff game, was the most recent game I watched, just actually not too long before this to refresh my game with him for the podcast. And in a lot of ways, that might be my favorite viewing. I was like, all right, let's go. Let's just hype him up even more. Like, he was going into boards against grown men on weird angles where I'm like, okay, I appreciate him trying, but like, I don't know why. Oh my God, he came out with the puck. And it's like, what is he? That's cool. Okay. And there are other plays where the rush was coming his way, but they stopped up and they started passing through the neutral zone and they kind of spaced out all of Chernyshov and his teammates. And then they passed it back towards him. And the guy who attacked him even caught him off guard. Like, he's not really angled towards him, right? But he just is F it and kind of engages them and puts out a stick and steals the puck and just steals it. And instantly he's just like, whoop, and passes it right to a teammate. And there goes the transition the other way. And it's like, okay, that's fast decision-making, smart play recognition, pulling stuff off against grown men in the KHL playoffs, which isn't what it used to be, but it still means a significant amount. Like, most of our first round is not doing this. Like, they just simply cannot do this right now. But why can't he continue to just get better? Like you see guys who are so pro ready now, and they also have all this room for development. And then you see teams that love to draft to develop like Detroit. And I start to go, okay, I'm really starting to see the connection here. Like it's big boom or bust, I guess, in a way. He probably can fit a bottom 6 role though, based on what I saw in these last few games, especially that last one. But like, I still see him as like, you want the boom though, because he's such a terrific player. Like the big signature trait with him all year was his ability to take on one-on-ones against these grown KHL players in awkward angles and just like engage them, get the shoulder in there, stick his back out and just pickpocket players, or his ability to just like stick handle through guys, not just around them with like the skating. And like usually when you're watching like a skilled player in the pro hockey, you want to see how they evade pressure, because you know they're going to get like smashed when they play against these 27-year-old guys who are fully grown. They're not going to win that battle. They're just trying to get around them. Usually you're looking for like how they play through contact and go, yeah, that'll be good when he gets stronger, and how evasive he is. Igor was like, I don't care, I'm just going to go engage them anyways. And then he's just pulling off these moments. But he can also be an open ice attacker. He's one of the best forwards at using his reach as well, which above all else, like I don't care about height in the NHL. I care about reach more than anything. Like if you're going to be a tall player with reach, use every millimeter of that reach, know how to use it and have skill with it. Like be able to pull that puck back, handle in tight with your big awkward arms, and then like use that reach properly when it's time to come out. This guy is one of those ones who does it, and he does it well. Like Lindstrom and him are the two tall players among the forwards who I see like bobbing and weaving through guys and like pulling pucks around them, but then immediately like protecting the puck, extending their reach out, just like buying time, then pulling off some ludicrous pass at the end. Like the potential with him is crazy. And it's wild that I feel like I myself labeled him as like a low floor bust type player when he's doing 30 KHL games in his draft year. Like that's not too far away.
Yeah.
What am I doing? What am I doing with this? Like that's the impression I kind of was getting. I'm like, how am I underrating this? Why am I overthinking this? This is starting to get very easy. I feel like he might be one of those ones where you go high in the draft and NHL or fans are like, whoa, like Dmitry Simashev and Daniil Boo. Like those guys had a lot of hesitations about boom or bust labels and stuff like this. And I agreed with Daniil Boo for sure. Simashev, not in the slightest. I thought Simashev was a monster. But like, I love Simashev. I never thought he was going to be a top 15 guy. And he goes 6 in the Moritz Seider draft spot. And now he's going to do the same reputation all over again because he's that sick. And I kind of wonder if NHL teams are looking at a guy like Igor. And honestly, Utah pulling this out of their hat at 6, given how they drafted out of Russia last year. Like Utah being like, yeah, let's just take Cheryshov at 6 would blow my brain. But like, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Awesome.
Yeah. You mentioned traits there, and I have after we get to a break here, I have a few more questions about his again, like traits that you see from him on the ice, especially.
Yeah.
All right. Wait with bated breath for Scotty's riveting question in segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, did you just take a sip of water? Because I heard a big ass gulp.
Yeah.
I heard that too.
When I did take the drink too, I was like, wow, that was loud, eh? Like I had that thought as well. So
it was like a sitcom gulp.
Yeah.
All right, Scott.
I was like halfway through and I was like, wow, this is loud. Yeah.
All right, Scotty, you had a question for Sam about Egor Chernishov. Why don't you go ahead and pose the question?
Yeah, well, I mean, you had mentioned there the traits that he has on the ice and kind of, I guess I'll label it as style of play that he possesses. And I guess my question is just, we're talking about a dude who has played against grown men at a very young age, has size and skill. And I'm wondering why, like when you only talk about good, it's like this the number 1 overall.
Yeah.
Like,
so where's the problem?
What is holding him back in these projections? Why are we having a conversation about him potentially being on the board at 15?
So this is where that like boomer bust label even came from to begin with, which, like I said, I don't believe in. After watching those last few games, I'm like, man, that he was dialed in and playing just good team hockey. But the overall issue, I guess you could say, that was plaguing his season, for lack of a better phrase, plaguing might be too dramatic, but whatever, was that he wasn't as involved in team play as you would want to see. Like, he would get the puck and he would just like demolish this grown man and look like a star in the process. And you'd be like, oh boy, not a lot of guys do that. And then you kind of wouldn't see him for a bit. He would notice him still be locked in defensively and try and make plays. Like, you never doubted like the effort to try, which is what kept him there. Because usually when you don't see a guy and a guy kind of goes, I won't say floating, but gives that appearance that he's floating, especially if you're watching like all 10 players on the ice, you're like, hey, I wonder when I'm going to see number 25 again. And then you don't see him forever. It's like, maybe that's usually because they're not kind of keeping pace with the game, but he was still putting in effort everywhere. And I think that was enough to keep him on the coaching staff, or the coaches and staff to keep him on the team. And from there, I think they just believed in him. They didn't cut his minutes, although I think there was a stretch in the middle of the season. And kind of just worked out based on how he developed over the season. Like, he kind of was locked in there. Like, he was making plays. He was noticeable on a shift by shift. He wasn't like play driving yet. Wasn't that guy who will get the puck and immediately is like looking on how, like comparing him to, say, a Berkeley Catton. I would never in a million years take Igor Chernyshov over Berkeley Catton. Berkeley Catton might be 5'11". Berkeley Catton may not be like mulling through guys like Igor Chernyshov is against pros. Berkeley Catton is so smart. He's so smart. He's just 2 steps ahead of everybody. He's super skillful. Every move is with purpose. He's baiting guys to kind of shift their weight this way so he can pull a puck around them and set up a passing lane this way, and then he's going to cut behind that. And you're just like, there's layers behind everything they're doing. Igor, you want those type of guys because they're the ones that you can see playing in the top 6 the easiest. They're the ones where they're like, they see the game and all of its tricks and all of its layers and just the big chess match that it is against top 6 guys. And they know how to just consistently play, battle back and forth. Igor doesn't technically have that. So he's not like a top 6 lock. And up until recently, I think people were concerned that he was even an NHL lock. I guess you still could be a little concerned, but based on this game, it's like, I don't think he's not a lock. I guess you could see it really not working out, but maybe there's still like even a bottom 6 checker there. That raises the floor. That raises his draft value, which is why I moved him up personally to like 11 or 12. It's like, okay, if I'm getting a player out of this no matter what, yeah, I want one who actually has that chance to like really take off and like really be one of those guys. There's not a lot of dudes with these crazy toolkits, so it makes sense why you hear this and you're like, hey, why is he not like kind of being the consensus higher? It's kind of a weak draft for forwards, they're saying. I also just kind of think the NHL is going to take him maybe higher than people are expecting. Then we're going to kind of look at this and go, all right, yeah, let's go.
Well, one of the really interesting things, too, about Russians is a lot of them don't come over to North America until they are NHL ready. In fact, Red Wings fans actually are kind of intimately knowledgeable on that because a second-round pick they had from a couple of years ago, Dmitry Buchnikov, just signed a new 2-year deal in the KHL to stay over there. You know, how hard is it? And not that this, I kind of asked a similar question yesterday to Prashant Iyer when we had him on, but like, how hard is it to develop a guy when you really don't have any on-hand ability to develop him until he is NHL ready and comes to North America? I know that's not always the case, but it seems to be it is a thing that's been happening.
Yeah, the Russian factor in most cases and in most organizations, I think, is overblown. If Detroit considers it a problem, I would go with what Detroit kind of says with it. Like, some teams, from what I have heard through the grapevine, are surprisingly disconnected with players. And you don't even need to go through the grapevine. Like, my own personal team, the Montreal Canadiens, when Mark Bergevin was GM, like, there are some stories about what players have said that we were basically like, yeah, you need to work on this. Have a nice summer. See you next year. And like check in with them 3 times. That's terrible. That's non-existent. So if you are a hands-on organization, which I believe Yzerman has one of your Swedish Hall of Famers is over there in Europe, like are in Sweden, like working with players?
I mean, a lot of them are. Lidstrom has an official
okay.
role in the organization, but I'm pretty sure Cronwall also is over there helping out with the players as well.
Lidstrom or Cronwall.
Like everybody is over there, but yeah, Lidstrom is.
So like
the old boys club is strong.
Yeah, like that type of on-hands development is crucial if in an organization like this. That's part of the plan, right? Like that's why you take guys of these archetypes. That's why you trust in your skill development in the team, because you have guys like this who can go over there and be like, I trust I can work with the player and solve the problem. Maybe that is too much of a factor. And if that is the case, like it really just comes down to what are your meetings with the players like? Do you sense that they want to come over? Do they care? If they don't care, like I've heard a couple of stories where like the people just knew the player didn't care that much because the player didn't try in the interview. So it was basically like a formality, like, yeah, I've got a plan already. And if you guys work with me, cool. And if not, then it's like, whatever. No, obviously not like all of them. Maybe it's like, I can't imagine Detroit looking at a dude doing that to them in an interview and then taking them anyways.
Right.
But, like,
right.
You never really know what's going to keep a player home. I guess it happens a little bit more in Russia, but I feel like you should be able to get a very good grasp on what their intentions are. If you were genuinely interested in the player and you truly believe like this is the guy, I imagine any team worth a damn would, like, Detroit is absolutely worth those dams. Like if you guys pushed and like really got to the bottom of it, you'd be on the same page. They were saying things about Ivan Demidov not wanting to come over just 5 days ago. The rumor through the grapevine for like weeks has been that this was not true, but like that was what media kept reporting. And everyone, I guess I was like, all right, I guess I heard wrong. And now he came over and his agent is like, he wants to play next year. He wants to be here now. Like draft him second and sign him. And you have a player. We'll deliver him to you in October. And it's like, okay, but the Russian factor was the big scary voodoo thing with him up until like
yes, every year. Every year this happens with every prospect. And
this happened with Michkov, and from every report,
right.
Like Michkov personally was just like, why? I've always wanted to play over here. What is people talking about? Like, I don't understand. And they weren't doing it with Demidov until suddenly they were. And it's like, where is this coming from? Why is this not ever discussed about 6'7" Anton Salayev? Why is everybody so confident he's going to come over? I guess maybe he's publicly declared it to them earlier in the year. Maybe Igor has as well. I don't really know like the details to this, but I hate the idea of the Russian factor scaring away good players. One of my favorite players is going to fall because he's small and he's Russian, but like I think Nikita Artmonov is amazing. He might fall, but I heard there are a couple NHL teams who are extraordinarily high on him, like as high as one could possibly be, but he still might fall. Who knows? Just, you never know with the person who's making a decision. If they're not 100% confident, maybe they just don't pull the trigger. I don't know. But personally, I don't think if Detroit's drafting him in the first round, it ain't going to be because, or they won't have any hesitation. They're going to know that he's coming over.
Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to profile Buium and Chernyshov. Really appreciate it. Let people know where they can read your stuff and find you on social media.
Well, I'm on the Scouching live stream every Monday, and we're going to be doing a joint rankings release, me and Will, on Monday. So that will be Monday, June, whatever Monday is the week of the draft, because I don't know the date off the top of my head.
24th?
It's the 28th. 28th is the day of the draft. So 24th would be that Monday.
Yeah, so the Monday is the 24th.
Yeah, there you go. So the 24th, you will have my rankings right up out that day or possibly even the day before on sammcgilligan.substack.com. You can find my work at PuckPreps. Get a subscription there for everything you want to look about a player by the time they're 15 years old, just drafted in the CHL. PuckPreps already got reports on them of genuine quality. That's where it all starts right there. Watch all the North Americans grow from their age back at 15 all the way to what they are at 18. There's years going into this stuff. And of course, you can follow me on Sam_McGilligan on Twitter.
Awesome. Sam, thank you so much. And
to
our listeners, we'll have yet another draft profile. We're knocking them all out for you guys as the draft quickly approaches. We'll have Max Bultman on tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team. Oh, wait, Scott, you got to say your thing. Did you say it?
We ball.
We ball. Same time, same place, your team every day.